The education system of any country is key in the development and the growth of that nation. They say education is an equalizer, but it's really saddening to see that our current Kenyan government is really into destroying the education system. I hear many people say that we need to give the president time to implement the new funding model and see if it will work. But today, let me just share reasons as to why we don't want to give him even the time to implement the new funding model. Number one is we have trust issues. Mr. President, we don't trust you. You're part of a system that is broken, a system that can never be trusted. You're a part of this system. So how can we trust a system that is not trustworthy to its own citizen, a system that is destroying them? First and foremost, let me ask this. Where was the problem in the old funding model that we need to take a new funding model? Now, we know one thing, that when the finance bill failed, IMF has withdrawn its funding to Kenya. That's something that we know. And that is because they say that the finance bill was the idea of IMF. And if you check factors or things surrounding the new funding model, it's only the president himself moving around this nation trying to explain how the new funding model is gonna work. Look, Mr. President, you have one cabinet secretary for education at the national level who has also permanent secretaries. We have the Helblon board, which has directors, it has members. We have 47 cabinet secretaries for education in this country. Why aren't these people helping you in spreading this gospel? Now, this tells us one thing, that you are the only one with this idea, and you are really trying to convince people that this idea will work. And because you're the only one with this idea, you are the only person who knows how to implement this idea. So it's like we are having a one-man, one-show system of governance in this country. Second, when we speak about trustworthiness, this new funding model is going to categorize us. In Africa, tumekuanga categorized in education. There are best students in every school. We have top 10 students and bottom 10. If you go to Europe, there is nothing like that, okay? But in Africa, hey, there is the top 10, there is the bottom 10. Now, if you come to the new funding model, there is band 1 to band 5. And we know one thing, that the band 1 people are to receive higher fundings from the government. But with the high level of corruption in this country, and corruption in this country comes in 3 ways. Number one, there is the corruption of whom do you know and whom does that person know. There is the corruption of how much money do you have to get something, and there is the corruption of that you need to sell your body to get access to something. And we know one thing, if you use your body to get something, you'll have to use that body to keep that thing. And if you are going to use money to get something, you're going to need a lot of money to keep that thing. Now, we know one thing, with the high level of corruption amongst even some government leaders, we have cabinet secretaries, we have permanent secretaries, we have people who are working for this government who are earning a very huge salary, but they're going to corrupt people so that their kids end up in band 1. Then ule mtoi mwenye familia yake, they come from a very humble background. He's the only hope to transform life in that society. The fact that this kid cannot buy or cannot corrupt anyone, or he doesn't or she doesn't know anyone who knows someone, it's gonna be hard for this kid to end up in band 1. Atapata band 5 huko, place yenye haezi hadi lipa fee. This means that it's gonna be hard for a person from a very humble background to access education in this country. In short, Mr. President, decide to make education only for the rich. Is that the government you're telling us, that mtoto wa mama mboga na mtoto wa mtu wa boda haizipata education, but mtoto wa CS, mtoto wa PS, mtoto sijua manager fulani mahali anaweza pata job simply because, or anaweza pata Helblon or whatever you call that funding, simply because is able to corrupt someone. The other thing we want to know, or the other thing you should know, that the reason as to why I can't even advocate that we give this president time to implement the new funding model, bado tujaambiwa clearly that mimi campus nimekuwa nikisomea fee around 20k, then someone is coming to pay fee nearly 100k. Okay, Mr. President, the Chief Justice just say, why don't you scrap off all these bursaries? Make education free. Mwai Kibaki had a vision for this country. Mimi nilienjoy free education ya Mwai Kibaki, and he made sure that each and every person accessed education for free. But sahi juu ni kama umeona tuko na so many intellects that they are challenging your government in the various evil things you're doing. Decide that the only way to sabotage these people is by controlling the amount of information they acquire. Remember, access to information is free as per the constitution, and education is information. kuna kwanga na saying that if you want to control people, reduce their number. So you have decided for you to control the intellects in this country is by reducing the number of intellects. How do you reduce the number of intellects? By bringing a funding model that you know is going to be really hard for people from a humble background to access, so that you may have fewer people from the political class or people who have access to the current political class, so that you can rule this country. I'm going to say this, that on the 9th of this month, I support all campus students. It's not for us. It's not for us Gen Z. Hii ni story ya Gen Alpha. Sisi ni wale wanasemanga hii si yangu, hii ni ya nani. So this for the Gen Alpha. We are fighting for the Gen Alpha. We are going to stand tall. We are going to speak against this new funding model until you tell us, where did the old funding model mess that we can't correct, that we need to wipe it out? Second, tell us how you're going to deal with corruption that is really, really eminent in this country. Yet you yourself, you are the pioneer of corruption.